I'm talking, of course, about ginger kids. Oh, sick! Gross!
Ginger Kids, an iconic episode in South Park's history. It's responsible for this legendary meme.
Gingers have souls!
However, this episode is also surrounded by significant controversy.
And now that young teen could be facing hate crime-related charges.
Some people have also argued that this episode has contributed to bullying and ridicule, with Ed Sheeran even claiming that it ruined his life.
People never knew what a ginger was in America. That episode of South Park ruined my life.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Oh, Edward, I hate to break it to you, but people have been making fun of gingers since the beginning of time. South Park is known for its boundary-pushing humor. Over the years, the show has ridiculed just about everything, holding the attitude that either everything is okay or nothing is.
Either it's all okay, or none of it is.
Ginger Kids is no exception. It's an episode that showcases Eric Cartman in his prime, highlighting his hypocrisy and utter shamelessness. Today, we'll be exploring this episode and looking at some controversies surrounding it. If you enjoy South Park content, you might as well subscribe, as every video on my channel relates to it in some way. Let's get started with our armchair analysis of Season 9's episode, Ginger Kids.
They come out at night, they creep and crawl. Who does God hate most of all? Ginger! Who should have never been...
The episode begins with Garrison's class giving presentations. When it's Cartman's turn, he gives a speech on Ginger Kids.
They creep us out and make us feel sick to our stomachs. I'm talking, of course, about ginger kids.
By the way, Cartman giving presentations is an underrated aspect of this show. Examples that come to mind when he tries to paint Kyle responsible for 9/11, or when he mocks Wendy's breast cancer speech. You just know he's gonna go up there and say some wild stuff. He makes up a disease called gingivitis, a play on words referring to, a mild form of gum disease that causes inflammation. He then goes on to say this occurs because ginger kids
have no souls. What?
This line pretty much created the YouTuber Coppercab in his viral video. He goes on a rant talking about gingers having souls and hating on South Park. I believe he was actually being somewhat serious in his first video, but once it went viral, he really embraced the trend. And he went on to create rage bait content, which, let's be honest, was quite innovative for its time. South Park went on to parody this video in a promo for season 14. And Coppercab also went on the TV show Taj.0. Viral memes were a lot better during this era. Now we just have memes about a girl hawking a loogie on a schlong. Cartman then starts comparing gingers to vampires, because like vampires, gingers have to avoid the sun. They obviously don't have to avoid the sun altogether, but they definitely sunburn a lot easier. This comment causes Kyle to interrupt, saying that he has red hair and doesn't need to avoid the sun. Cartman explains how some people like Kyle have red hair, but not light skin or freckles.
These people are called daywalkers.
When making this episode, Matt and Trey actually had a hard time deciding what to do about Kyle.
Kyle's a daywalker because he's ginger, but he can go out in the sun.
Right.
Because we had a tough time with this episode because we wanted to do this whole ginger episode, but then we'd
already asserted that Kyle was ginger.
Yeah, that Kyle had red hair.
Kyle snaps once again and claims that this isn't a presentation, but a hate speech.
People aren't creeped out by gingers. I am.
This comment by Clyde shouldn't be so funny, but it is. Cartman responds with more derogatory comments and even fear-mongering claims about gingers.
If you think that the ginger problem is not a serious one, think again.
The reference to Carrot Top in this episode was just inevitable. After class, Kyle vents to Stan about Cartman's speech, expressing his anger and determination to do whatever it takes to disprove Eric's hateful rumors. They come up with the idea to go see a family who has ginger kids to learn more about them. Stan asks their parents why they have 3 ginger kids when they both have dark hair and brown eyes. They explain that the ginger gene is recessive in both of their families' DNA. It's a bit confusing how this works, and I don't want to bore you all with a full explanation of the MC1R gene, but what the Foleys say here is definitely possible, though it would be insanely unlikely for it to happen 3 times, which the father explains.
What are the odds?
Another thing that shouldn't be funny, but is somehow one of the best parts of the episode. Kyle then asks about the rumor on whether or not they have souls.
Have no souls.
No, I'm sure they do.
The father quickly ushers them out the door. As they're leaving, he tells them if they don't want ginger kids, they should marry an Asian woman.
I know a guy who's marrying a Japanese woman very soon for just that reason.
This is actually Trey Parker referencing himself. He was engaged to Emma Sugiyama around the time this episode was created.
I sort of reference myself in this show where I had just gotten engaged. The only way you can be sure you're not gonna have a ginger kid is to marry like an Asian, and no, he's talking about me because that's what I did.
The next scene shows Kyle giving his presentation about gingers, which is actually pretty informative, and the kids seem to respond positively to it. That is, until Cartman has something to say about it. He continues his fear-mongering, and this time he seems to really scare the other kids.
And one night, when you're all sleeping in your room, the gingers are gonna get you.
Surely, nobody will take this seriously, right? Wrong. We then see Cartman's manipulation is working, and the other kids start acting prejudiced towards the gingers at school.
Go on, beat it, retard.
Kyle, Stan, and Kenny witness this and start to feel bad for the ginger kids.
I wish Cartman could see what it felt like to be a ginger.
This gives Kyle an idea, and he tells the boys to meet him at Cartman's house at nighttime. Their plan is to give Cartman a little makeover and make him think that he is changed into a ginger overnight. Also, I love how they have to knock him out to do this, but Kyle just keeps wailing on him. Cartman wakes up the next day completely horrified by his new appearance.
I'm ginger!
His mom takes him to the doctor, and he's then told that he has gingivitis. The doctor informs him there is no cure, and makes sure Leanne knows this. He even alludes that she might consider...
You might want to just put him down.
Out of the episodes I've covered so far, this one is making me laugh the most while editing. I've always liked this episode, but I definitely forgot a lot of little things. But yeah, this is a certified banger. Cartman shows up at the bus stop the next day and tries to casually explain how he's now a ginger. The boys, of course, find this very amusing and try to get Cartman to realize the irony of his situation.
Well, I mean, all last week you were ripping on ginger kids and now you are one.
Though, he's Eric Cartman. Of course, he doesn't see it or feel remorse for the hate speech he was preaching earlier. Cartman getting his karma is a therapeutic experience for the viewer. Despite him being my favorite character, I still love watching him get what he deserves every so often. I think that's what makes his character so special. At school, Eric tries to play it off as if nothing has happened. His friends end up kicking him out of the cafeteria, subjecting him to the same hate-filled treatment that he started himself. I guess now would be a good time to talk about the real-world incidents that occurred following this episode. In 2008, a teenager started a Facebook group. The title of this Facebook group was International Kick a Ginger Day. This seems like a pretty obvious joke at first, but the group gained thousands of members across the US, Canada, and the United Kingdom. They all agreed on the date being November 20th. When that day arrived, several students with red hair were assaulted by other students.
13-year-old Aaron Mishkin says he was kicked about 80 times at school on Thursday, which had been dubbed Kick a Ginger Day on a number of internet sites.
The person who created the Facebook page was a 14-year-old Canadian boy who faced an investigation for, and I quote, provoking what officials believe to be a rash of hate crimes across national boundaries. He claimed he got the idea after watching this South Park episode.
Did anybody else at their school have a day called Kick a Ginger Day? I feel like I remember Kick a Ginger Day being a big deal in high school, and if you had freckles and red hair, like, you had to be on alert.
A lot of news reporters got information wrong, and one of them even claimed South Park created this day.
It's known as Kick a Ginger Day, which South Park designates as today, November 20th.
That's just comical levels of bad reporting. Let's talk about this situation for a minute. So first off, anyone who blames TV shows, books, or video games for people's actions is obviously a moron. I don't think it needs to be said that assaulting someone based on their appearance would also qualify you as a moron. Listen, we can blame social media, or we can blame South Park, but really, we should all be blaming Canada. Okay, but in all seriousness, this is clearly a parenting issue and not a South Park issue. Yeah, it's likely that after this episode came out, it caused ginger kids to be teased more in school, but this whole thing was blown way out of proportion. The news articles make it seem like they were trying to commit ginger genocide or something. Almost everyone watching this video has been bullied or at least made fun of for something, whether it's their height, weight, sexuality, skin color. In a lot of cases, it builds character. Don't get the wrong idea, I'm not one of those bring back bullying people, especially when it involves violence. But if someone teases you for something you can't control, that's just a reflection of that person, not you. And sometimes getting made fun of can cause you to adapt and develop thicker skin. Okay, I could ramble way too long about this, so let's continue with the episode. The boys are happy to see Cartman getting a taste of his own medicine, thinking that they taught him a lesson.
Cartman is gonna have a long, hard think about how he treated Gingers.
But if we know anything about Cartman, he'll take a different approach that doesn't involve self-reflection. He assembles all the Ginger students at the school and gives them a speech about how it's not fair to be treated the way they are just because they're Ginger, even though, he started the whole Ginger hate movement. The best part about this speech is when he tries to give examples of successful Ginger people, and the only person they can think of is Ron Howard.
Ron Howard? Right, we already had him, but right.
Oh yeah, I also found a reference. Does this taco look familiar?
How about a taco that craps ice cream?
We then see the Gingers marching around the playground at recess.
Red power! Red power! Red power!
Yeah, I don't think you need me to tell you what red power is a reference to. Cartman can't just fight for equality, he now has to push Gingers as a superior race, which is even funnier considering Gingers aren't a race at all. Kyle and Stan contemplate if they should tell Cartman the truth, but Kyle decides they should let him keep making an ass of himself. The next scene shows all the Gingers protesting the musical Annie. It's about an orphan girl who happens to be Ginger. The problem here is that she's being played by a girl who isn't actually Ginger.
And pretending to be Ginger with makeup is the worst thing anybody can do!
Some more irony for you. The Gingers then proceed to jump Annie.
There she is! Get her!
Did anyone else like this musical when they were younger? I haven't watched it since I was a kid, but I remember Easy Street was a banger. The Gingers hold their first official meeting at the airport Hilton.
Can I get a red power? Red power!
Cartman goes on to give a speech similar to what you would see from white supremacist groups, which shouldn't surprise you at all by this point. He rallies them into believing that Gingers are the superior race. Again, not a race. He even convinces them that all non-Gingers need to be exterminated. Unfortunately, this isn't the only time Cartman has attempted genocide.
Actually, Eric is still supposed to be grounded for trying to exterminate the Jews 2 weeks ago.
The Gingers seem hesitant at first, but Cartman's manipulation knows no bounds. He tells them all to go into the night and drag all non-Gingers back to him, so that they can begin their solution. Meanwhile, the boys decide they're gonna change Cartman back to a non-Ginger, thinking that it would be funny to see his reaction after all of his red supremacy preaching. As the boys are on their way to Cartman's house, Stan gives a cute little speech admitting that he had prejudice towards people and he's now learning to see that everyone is different in one way or another. When suddenly,
Hey there.
the final solution begins. This is a hilarious scene where Matt and Trey went out of their way to make Gingers look as creepy as possible.
Ginger kids! Ah!
There's even a few horror movie references within this bit. I'm pretty sure the little girl singing here is a reference to Nightmare on Elm Street. Fun fact, this is the first prototype of Leslie Myers in South Park.
Leslie, shut your f***ing pie hole!
Her hair color was later changed to black, but the t-shirt she is wearing is unmistakable. She was mostly a background character until season 19 when she got her first speaking role. The boys then run into an abandoned barn, but the amount of Gingers is too overwhelming. All of the non-Gingers are then brought to Cartman, at the airport Hilton of course. Kyle awakens to find himself in a cage surrounded by burning lava.
How about lava? You got enough lava?
Yes, we're good!
Cartman is fully serious about this and ready to kill every last non-Ginger. Starting of course with the Daywalker. Just as they're about to throw Kyle into the lava, he whispers something into Cartman's ear. He lets him know that Cartman isn't actually Ginger and that the makeup will eventually fade away. Cartman is obviously horrified, mostly because he knows he's going to eventually be killed by the Gingers, so he has to quickly think of a solution. He gives another speech in true South Park style about how if they commit genocide, they are no better than the people who discriminated them in the first place.
We all have to learn to live together.
He's of course only saying this to save his ass. The Gingers start questioning what Kyle whispered to him.
What did that kid in the green hat tell you?
And it's absolutely hilarious watching Eric try to backpedal out of the situation. I really wish I could show the whole dialogue without getting my video claimed, but it's golden. He eventually gets the Gingers to agree with him by singing a corny little song.
Hand in hand, we can live together, ginger or not, we're all the same.
So Cartman ends up getting away with it, and he doesn't face the full extent of his karma.
You're such a manipulative asshole, Cartman.
Yes, but I'm not going to die.
Just a beautiful episode all around. It's actually ranked in the top 25 of all time, which isn't too surprising. However, it definitely caused a lot of drama and backlash. South Park doesn't condone any type of violent behavior and even makes fun of people who do react like that. At the end of the day, it's social commentary. If people take it at face value, they are lacking something mentally, or they're just kids. I mean, when you look at the controversies surrounding this episode, it's pretty much all teenagers and kids, which is very telling. Again, parenting issue. That being said, I'm actually really curious to know what Gingers think of this episode. I see a ton of conflicting posts online, some love it, and some blame it for ruining their life at school. So if you're a Ginger, comment and let me know what your reaction was to this episode. Just be prepared, someone might tell you that you have no soul.
Gingers have souls!
As always, thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next video.